There is a document in your business right now. A supplier contract, a market entry agreement, a pricing structure, a compliance checklist. It was written for a world where one set of rules applied everywhere. Western rules. Western finance. Western trade agreements. One system. One playbook. One dominant logic. That world closed on February the 28th, 2026. On that day, the United States and Israel launched strikes on Iran without consulting their own allies in Europe. The Western Alliance, the system that set the rules of global trade and finance since 1945, officially began running two different foreign policies at the same time. And the rival system, the one that has been building quietly for 15 years, stepped forward. Its name is BRICS. You have probably heard of it. Most businesses have not taken it seriously. That is about to change. I am Arman Akbari Khan. This is the Trifecta, and this episode is your survival map. Not for the crisis, for the opportunity inside it. Let me give you two numbers. $40 trillion, $60 trillion. The first number is the total economic output of all the NATO countries combined. The United States, Europe, Canada, Japan, and their allies. The second number is the total economic output of the BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and the countries that have joined since 2024 including Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia, and Iran. BRICS has more economic weight than the Western Alliance. It also has 3.3 billion people, compared to NATO's 950 million, and its economies are growing at 3.7% a year. The Western economies are growing at 1.1%. Now here is what that means for your business. The consumer spending boom of the next 20 years is not happening in Europe or North America. It is happening in India, Indonesia, Africa, and Latin America. Combined, BRICS consumer spending is projected to reach $25 trillion, growing at 3 times the pace of the Western world. India alone, 1.4 billion people, fastest-growing major economy on Earth, a middle class expanding faster than any country in history. Indonesia, 270 million people, 5th largest economy in the world by purchasing power. Africa, the youngest population on the planet, highest urbanization rate, fastest-growing mobile internet adoption. While most Western-oriented businesses have been watching the crisis headlines, this market has been building without them. The window to enter early is still open, but it is not open forever. Before you can operate in both blocks, you need to understand what each one actually wants from a business, because they are not looking for the same things at all. The Western Bloc, the United States, Europe, Canada, Japan, has become obsessed with what is called environmental, social, and governance standards. I will call it ethics and reporting compliance. If you want to sell to Western governments, large Western companies, or access Western funding, you need carbon tracking, diversity and inclusion reporting, anti-corruption certification, supply chain audits, long sales cycles, premium pricing, stable but slow-growing markets, high bar to enter, but very reliable once you are in. The BRICS bloc works differently. It wants volume over margin. It wants government relationships. It moves faster. It has local content requirements, meaning if you want to sell in India or Indonesia, you often need to manufacture or partner locally. It has state-backed financing available through the New Development Bank, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, national government programs. It has younger, digitally connected consumers who buy through mobile platforms. Lower bar to test. Much faster feedback on what works. Here is the key insight. These two blocks are not opposites. They are complementary. The businesses that will thrive in the next 10 years are not the ones that chose one block or the other. They are the ones that built a revenue model that works in both, simultaneously. Here is a revenue structure that works in the current environment. Not a theory. A portfolio you can build in 12 months. Stream 140% from Western contracts and institutions. This is your stable base. Your existing relationships. Your ethics-compliant products and services. Do not abandon this. It funds everything else while you build. Stream 2, 30% from BRICS consumer markets. This is your growth engine. India, Indonesia, Africa, Latin America. Local partnerships, local currency pricing, local platforms. We will cover where to enter and how in the next chapter. Stream 3, 20% from blended finance. This is the part most businesses miss. There are funding programs specifically designed for businesses expanding into emerging markets. The Global Innovation Fund, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank's business window, the African Development Bank, all have capital available for businesses with a real product and a real market. You do not have to fund the expansion from your own cash. There is institutional money waiting for exactly what you are building. Stream 4, 10% from owned revenue. Subscriptions, digital products, marketplaces. This is the only revenue stream that does not depend on any bloc, any government, or any institutional relationship. It is also the one that most businesses ignore until a crisis forces them to build it. Build it before you need it. The logic of this portfolio. No single stream is more than 40% of your total revenue. That is not a coincidence. That is the rule. The moment any single stream goes above 40%, you have a dependency, not a business. BRICS is not one market. It is 4 distinct regional opportunities, each with its own entry mechanics. Here is the breakdown, and the specific platforms and funding sources for each one. Asia. Southeast Asia is the fastest-moving consumer market on the platform economy. Shopee, Tokopedia, Lazada, and Zalora are the 4 dominant sales platforms. Shopee runs a free seller training program, Shopee Seller University, that teaches you the platform mechanics at no cost. Lazada has its own seller financing program for working capital. Japan and Korea are open to smaller business partnerships through their international development agencies. Japan's development agency and Korea's equivalent both run innovation challenges, specifically for businesses in clean technology and agricultural processing. Africa. The continent-wide platform is Jumia, often called the African Amazon. Takealot dominates South Africa. Konga and Jumia Nigeria for West Africa. Copia serves rural Kenya. Financing entry point. The Tony Elumelu Foundation runs $5,000 seed grants with zero equity taken. The International Finance Corporation has an off-grid solar financing program for businesses entering energy markets. Fintech rails. Flutterwave and M-Pesa are the 2 payment infrastructure options for African markets. Both have merchant programs. Latin America. Mercado Libre is the regional giant, covers Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, and Mexico. Mercado Pago, which is the payment arm of Mercado Libre, offers financing to active sellers. The Inter-American Development Bank runs a scaling initiative for businesses. The Development Bank of Latin America has grants for smaller businesses, improving their market competitiveness. The swing countries. India, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Turkey, Indonesia, Brazil, Qatar, South Africa. These 8 countries are not choosing sides between East and West. They are running relationships with both simultaneously. They are also your highest priority target markets. Fastest growing middle class. Most sophisticated consumers outside the West. Most active government procurement programs. The only catch: operating in these countries requires 2 compliance frameworks, one for Western partners, one for local requirements. You cannot use one set of rules for both. Accept that up front, and it becomes manageable. You do not need to rebuild your business. You need to add one new lane while protecting the existing one. Here are 5 moves. Each one takes less than a week. Together they position you inside the new order instead of outside it. Move 1. Map your dual revenue. Write down 3 products or services you currently sell to Western clients. Then write 3 that could be sold, with little or no modification, in an emerging market. That second list is your pivot starting point. Move 2. Test one platform. Pick Shopee, Jumia, or Mercado Libre based on your geography. Launch a minimum version of one product with a $1,000 advertising budget. You are not trying to make money. You are buying data. How does this audience respond to what I sell? Move 3. Apply for one blended grant. The Global Innovation Fund, the Development Finance Window of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, and the DIV Fund all accept the same type of application. Build one pitch deck. Apply to all 3. Move 4. Build one local alliance. Contact one chamber of commerce in your target market. This single step, a formal local relationship, unlocks credibility with both Western funders, who require local partners, and local governments, who require a local contact. Move 5. Dual compliance. Start the process of getting one ethics and reporting certification for Western markets and one local content certification for your BRICS target market at the same time. They are not in conflict. They serve different relationships. Run them in parallel. And here is your AI prompt. Pause here. Copy it. Fill in your brackets. Run it on Claude at claude.ai or Gemini at gemini.google.com. AI prompt, your business BRICS pivot strategy. I run A. Describe your business, type, size, current markets. Given the shift in global trade toward BRICS markets in 2026 and the fracture of the Western Alliance, tell me. 1. Which 3 BRICS or emerging markets are the strongest fit for what I sell, and why? 2. What is the fastest and lowest cost way to test demand in one of those markets? 3. Which blended finance or grant program should I apply to first, and what do I need to apply? 4. What dual compliance steps do I need to take to operate in both Western and BRICS markets at the same time? Be specific. Use current 2026 data. Simple language. Drop your business type and your best finding in the comments. I read every one. The businesses that win the next decade will not be the ones with the most resources. They will be the ones that read the map first. This episode was for businesses. But the same geopolitical shift that opened a new market for you has done something much more urgent to the organizations that fund development work across Asia, Africa, and Latin America. It has pulled their funding floor out from underneath them. In Part B of this episode, the companion video, we cover the same world but from the NGO side. $54 billion in international aid was cut by the United States government in January 2026. Overnight, thousands of organizations lost funding with no warning. At the same time, BRICS-aligned capital is moving into exactly the spaces Western donors just left. Part B is the survival map for those organizations. And in Episode 7, we go one layer deeper. Underneath all of this, the new trade blocs, the new financial systems, the new rules, there is a technology infrastructure being rebuilt. The payment systems that move money, the communication networks that carry information, the financial plumbing that connects your business or organization to its partners and funders. That plumbing is being rebuilt. And if you do not know what is changing, you will not understand why your international transfer took 11 days instead of 2. That is Episode 7. If this episode gave you a sharper map of where the world is going, share it with one person who runs a business and is still planning for the old world. And if you need a working toolkit to operate in exactly this environment, Stop Guessing is built for this. Link in the description. Stay sharp, stay adaptable, and stop guessing.